Good afternoon. Welcome to the tea table. I am so happy you've joined me on this January day. We have had the coldest weather, and yet, just as I was going to do the tea talk, the sun came out. It is mild. I have my fur. I think this is a mink. And it is a vintage mink coat. It's so warm. I feel perfect. Whoops. And I have my tea out here for you. I'm going to try to just slightly move it down and maybe we'll see a little more of the tea. Well, I have special things. Yes, this is the tea table today, and it's actually really royal and really special, and it is the tea tin that commemorates King Charles III and his coronation. And this is it. And it is filled with wonderful British, Scottish shortbread cookies, enough for all. And the tea caddy, and it has wonderful tea, which I've made today. And it has a little card. And it has the seal, the unicorn, and the lion. Well, we're going to have a royal tea today, and we're also going to have an American royal tea because we had what you would call our coronation, even though we are not a kingdom of kings and queens, we are a republic. But the closest we get to a coronation is the inauguration. And I have a beautiful teapot. And actually, this is really old vintage, Asian, with the cobalt blue and all the colors. And one little cup I'm going to pour out. Oh, I love the steam when it's outside. And we had the most fabulous inauguration this week. And you've all watched it. You've been watching it all week. So we're going to have a short tea talk today because you've had so much screen time. We're just going to comment on a few interesting things. Now, this is the tea towel that came for King Charles's coronation. And it has the whole, I'll just hold it up. It has the whole thing on it. Really lovely. I love cobalt blue, and many people call it royal cobalt blue and gold. And we have in our White House so much cobalt blue and gold, I was noticing. And what I want to talk about is the fact how little has changed through all the world, in all the ages of time and history. Because I was thinking as I watched this inauguration, it is the same service that George Washington had almost 250 years ago. And then the custom is they went to the White House and had tea. The going out president with the coming in president and first lady. So here we are having tea. So that hasn't changed. Going to the church service, called the President's Church. Then they had, of course, the big parade. That's very unchanged. I mean, you could be almost in any era of history. Then what I really thought captured it were the balls, the 3 balls. And all the ladies dressed, well, first, let me back up. I thought it was lovely that we had so many hats at the inauguration. It made it feel so special and so royal. Ladies' hats. And then we had, which is very traditional, and then we come to the balls. It could have been 300 years ago, except for the music. There's the man, he's in his tuxedo, and she, the girl, or woman, the different women, all in the beautiful gowns, the most beautiful gowns, and with beautiful jewels. And I thought, this is like Cinderella, and nothing has changed, all the fairy tales. And it always involves a ball. It always involves a crowning or an inauguration with the family. I thought, I'm very historically involved. You all know that, and that's my love, is history, and especially church history. And to see everything played out and the traditions kept is beautiful, really beautiful. Now, normally I would not have put a leopard hat with my fur, but I had it in my closet and I thought, let's try it. I'm getting a little bold here because I had this lovely purse, which is, it's the real fur, and I think it's almost sealskin, but it's made in the leopard pattern and the brown leather. And I think, so this is the outfit. It's hard to get it all on the screen. But I thought, if I were going to the inauguration, now we are as far away from Washington, D.C. as you can get. Here we are in the other Washington, yes. And so, few of us ever get there. It's a big journey, 6 hours for us. So I thought, if I were going though, this is the fur I would wear. And I want to show you something that is incredible. This fur came, of course, it's thrifted. I found it and it just fit me perfect. And look at the initials. E-F-H. Do you know the only thing missing is S? Because my name, full name, is Susan, E for Elizabeth, Fauski, F for Fauski, H for my maiden name, Hansen, and then Shoemaker. So I needed an S here and an S here. But can you believe it? My 3 middle initials are there. And yes, I am wearing a little leopard inside, so I match. But I tell you, real fur is nothing like it in the whole wide world, because it's natural and it breathes with you, and yet it keeps you warm. So I thought for today we would talk about the beauty that we have in our country of tradition, and the fact that we have now, in this month of January where it's so cold, but we had so much going on and so much color and so much excitement, and it's wonderful. Now, in our capital, Olympia, we have a beautiful, I've told you about this, rotunda. Very similar. In fact, it is the replica of DC's rotunda. And in the rotunda, I don't know if they did it this year, but they usually, when the governor, we had a new governor come in, they have the governor's ball in the rotunda. And it's absolutely beautiful. And we have a beautiful governor's mansion here, beautiful capital. I love these ancient, to us they're ancient. If you go to Europe, our buildings are not ancient. Our capital was finished in 1929. It was started in the 1890s, but bumped into financial issues because of a financial crisis that happened in America. But it was finished right before the Great Depression, which was so important because our Capitol in Olympia is considered the last great building built before the Great Depression, and after the Depression, the buildings were never the same. We have 5 different kinds of marble in our Capitol: Italian marble, German marble, French marble, Washington State marble, and then there is one other type, and it is just a stunning, beautiful building that is the People's House. And across from our Capitol in Olympia is the Temple of Justice, where the Supreme Court of Washington State, another beautiful building. And someday, when I get a little more mobile with my video, I am going to go to the Capitol and do a tea talk. There is the most beautiful receiving room on the 2nd floor of the rotunda that has a grand piano and has ancient works of art and a beautiful, authentic rug, a beautiful tapestry rug, and it's just kind of the most beautiful room in the whole setting. And if you remember, we had an earthquake back in, I think it was 2001. We had this terrible earthquake, and I was actually driving my kids in our van to the Capitol that day. In fact, we didn't know the earthquake happened because we were in the van, and when you're in a car, it kind of felt like that, wow, are my tires going out? But no, everything was fine. Then we went a little further, and I looked to the left, and we all saw this hill go down, but we didn't know what it meant. And then I was taking my son to college. He was in a Running Start program where in our state you go to college and high school. Well, and I was dropping him off, and we went by this Jack-in-the-Box that sits on a hill, and the whole hill was down. And we said, wow, that's strange. Still didn't know. The radio had said something about there was something in Seattle. It really hit Olympia. By the time we got to his college, all the people were pouring out of the building. The miracle of that earthquake is no one died. And yet the rotunda, the dome of the rotunda was cracked, and it had to be repaired. It took 2 years. A main bridge that went down to the city of Olympia had to be repaired. That took a long time. But there was no loss of life. Total miracle. And the reason I'm saying this is because we had been invited, our family, there was a big arts presentation at the Capitol the next month. And the lieutenant governor's wife, Brad Owens at that time, his wife had called me and asked our family to come and play. So we were going to do music in that beautiful room. And then because the earthquake came, we never got to. And then, of course, they didn't really have it. It went on to do other things. But beautiful capitals are so important. They're like sacred ground. And when I saw that inauguration in the rotunda, so beautiful. And we have in our Capitol a statue of Mother Joseph, and I believe it's the Whitmans that came as missionaries to our state, and then they were martyred sadly by the Indians. But those statues that stand in our Capitol, I believe also are in Statuary Hall in DC. That's what I was told. If you come to Olympia and come on a tour, they give tours all day long. It's really worth going on a tour. I have been on several tours because of my kids. They were working in there as pages. They got to do that in high school, so I would go on the tour with them. And I tell you, every tour I would learn more. It's a fascinating, deep study of our state. And, you know, we're the state of nines. We were established in 1889. Our capital was finished in 1929. And there are like 9 steps and all kinds of... And Tiffany, the great Tiffany of New York, the great real Tiffany, the artist, he created his last great works for our capital. And in the rotunda is absolutely the most beautiful pieces of glass that are used as lights and lamps. And the very center, the big chandelier, is so big. When you stand there, the whole building is so big. But it is said you can put a Volkswagen Bug inside that chandelier. So our state is beautiful, and our capital is beautiful. Washington, D.C. is beautiful. All those buildings. And how wonderful that we have this filming that we feel like we're right there. You know, that really has only happened since television in the 1950s. Before that time, people would have had to just wait for a newspaper and wait for a picture. Or then maybe a movie reel would come out. But here we are in real time, able to see everything. What a blessing that is. Well, have you been having a good week? I've been busy. My week has been really busy. I just actually can't believe I'm sitting outside because I've been so cold and everyone's been so cold that I know. But suddenly, it's a little milder. It was so cold, it felt like snow, but there was no moisture, so we didn't get snow. It was down in the 20s, and that's very low for us. And our cold here, everyone who lives in the Pacific Northwest knows, it's colder because of the water. It's a wet cold, and so it gets right to the bone. Tea is important. Well, isn't this just a beautiful array with this blue and gold and the tin on the tea table? And it's just so amazing how this pot, this lovely pot, just matches it all perfect. Cobalt blue, royal cobalt blue. And when I was a little girl, I always thought, you know, Queen Elizabeth, she's been our queen our whole lives. And when I ever thought of her, it was always cobalt blue and gold. I love that color. And then my mother used to have some perfume. Some of you may remember mothers or grandmothers had Evening in Paris. And it was a cobalt blue bottle with a gold top. And I always thought of that as somehow associated with the Queen because it seemed so royal. You just can't beat cobalt blue and gold. A lot of china. Our wedding china is cobalt blue. Well, it's white with the trim cobalt blue and gold with the fleur-de-lis. And it's just classic. I love it. Well, it's a big year, 2025. It's going to be a good year. We are going to have blessings. I can feel it. And I feel that we are unbelievable that in another week is February, and then we have the beginnings of March and spring. I tell you, it's just gone so fast, hasn't it? Well, I just encourage all of you, enjoy this winter cold and get a good book, get cozy. I've been doing some studies and refreshing I'm teaching a class this time in the history of worship. And I start with Adam. And I discovered again the beauty that it says in the book of Job, the angels sang when God created Adam. That's the very beginning of the Bible. The end in Revelation, John takes back the curtain. All the people are singing and the angels around the throne. It's all music. It's singing. We are created to worship. We are created to sing. And worship is more than just going to church and praying. Worship is everything we do in our life. Martin Luther said, the great thing about worship is it's how the man plows the field, how the housemaid bakes the bread, how the poet writes a poem, how the musician writes a song, how the scholar teaches a class, how the writer writes a book. It's all worship when we do all to the glory of God. And I'll leave you with a little thought I've always loved, and the thought is this. It's a saying, and I think it's based on a verse in the scripture. The glory of God is man fully alive. Isn't that beautiful? So engage 2025, a new year, new dreams, new hopes. And I say whatever makes God big is true. Whatever makes God big is true. And that's why when we read the scripture, it builds our faith, and we suddenly see, oh, yes, I forgot. God's in charge. Everything's going to be all right. I can give him my little troubles. And my troubles get little when God gets big. Do you know that's one of the main reasons I fell in love with church history and history, period? Because history is his story. And when you study it that way, God has a plan, a people, and a purpose. There's a design to history. It's not just falling here and falling there. It's going somewhere. And when you see that big picture, it's like, oh, wow, God, you're really big. Well, then what's going to happen? My little troubles are going to get little, little, little. Yes, that's the key. That's where the joy is. And remember this, you parents out there, you that have children, when your children, little or big, are happy, you're happy, right? Yes. Well, that's how God, we're his children. And when we're happy, he's happy. He wants to meet our needs, answer our prayers, give us the desires of our heart, grant us beauty, and help us give others beauty. That's the full picture. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, push the notification bell, and you will be notified. And please share with others. If you know someone that needs encouragement, the Tea Talk, we are dedicated to good news and to know that we have a purpose and a design, and our goal is to make others happy and make others strong in their faith and in who they have been called to be. Yes. And please, if you like it, a like is nice, but I love your comments the most. So please feel free to comment. And blessings upon each one of you. And may you have a fabulous week and a fabulous 2025. Thank you so much. God bless.